You know, folks, I've said in previous videos that I'm used to politicians lying to me. I'm used to them giving your typical politician answer. They've been doing it my entire life. Anytime someone's out on the campaign trail, they're always making promises. Sometimes they're able to follow through and keep some of those, and a whole lot of times they're not. And when they don't fulfill the promise, they can always come out and say, "Well, I couldn't get it through the House, or I couldn't get it through the Senate," or that they have a scapegoat. They always have a way out, and they promise to get it right the next time. That's why I've always expressed the importance of voting straight down the line, Democratic. I don't I don't go across the aisle. It's never made sense to me why anyone would do that. What sense does it make for me to vote for Kamala Harris and then choose congressmen and women who wouldn't work with her and who would refuse to work with her? That makes no sense to me. I've always been on the left side of the aisle because I felt like that those politicians, whether they fulfilled all their promises or not, I've always felt like that those politicians had our best interest at heart and also were on the right side of history on so many issues. The Republican Party has been on the wrong side of history for all of my life. And so I've never wanted to be associated with them because of that. But I will say I'm used to that typical politician answer. Donald Trump doesn't do that at all. Donald Trump goes out on the campaign trail and he says exactly what he's going to do. And it goes against everything that this country was ever founded on. And he gets people to cheer for it. He tells you he's going to screw you. He tells you he's going to take you to the bank, right to your face. And they're okay with it. They're perfectly okay with that. So we're going to sit here and watch some clips of Trump, and you're going to hear him just say right out loud all the things that we say he says. I've had so many people say, well, on YouTube, they can alter videos. They can make it look like he said something, or they can take something out of context. Folks, I can't sit here and play you, and you wouldn't want to sit here and watch me break down a 3-hour Trump speech. So the speeches are out there. You can see for yourself that he really said these things. We're not altering anything he's saying. We're not using AI because we don't have to. This is the crap that he's saying. And what have they been saying to us? They've been saying we need to turn down the temperature in the room, that it's our fault that things are too tense these days. We shouldn't call Trump a threat to democracy, they will say. But listen to him in this clip and see what it is he calls us. Take a look.
You see all the stuff that Google and Facebook and all what they got caught cheating on the last election, the bad things they did, the 51 agents and all of the stuff, the laptop. Remember, it was Russia. It was Russia. No, it was Hunter, as we said. And they affected the election very much. It came out many points, 11 points, 12 points. But that's what we have. And we can never let that happen again. And I said, we're going to go after anybody that gets caught cheating on the election. We're going to go after them harder than anyone's ever been sought before. Because these people are really a threat. They are a threat to democracy. The Democrats are a threat to democracy. That's the real threat.
Okay, first of all, I realize that Hunter Biden is one of MAGA's favorite talking points. He's one of their favorite boogeymen, and they'll always be talking about Hunter Biden. But my argument has always been that Hunter Biden is a private citizen. He does not have a place in government. He does not have a place in his father's cabinet. But he's always been the boogeyman that they love to go to. But whatever Hunter Biden has done in his life, it does not affect you and I. But what Donald Trump has done does affect you and I. And when he wants to talk about people cheating at elections or corrupting, this is the same guy who said, just find me the votes. Just stop counting in the states where I'm winning and keep counting in the states I'm losing until you find the votes. This is the guy that tried to install the fake electors. This is the guy who staged a coup and actually tried to overthrow an election that he knew deep down that he lost. We all saw that on January 6th. We're not stupid. We know what we saw. And we realize what a threat to democracy that truly posed. I mean, we have them on video being a threat to democracies, trying to stand in the way of democracy. But it's us they tell to turn down the temperature. It's us that they say we're the ones that's being too rough on everything. And if we would lighten up, things would get better. No, he's out there saying we are the threat to democracy when we have him on video being a threat to democracy. And in this next clip, he talks about how that anyone who speaks against the Supreme Court should be put in jail. I mean, isn't that what dictators do? Take a look.
Brave, the Supreme Court, very brave, and they take a lot of hits because of it. It should be illegal what happens. You know, you have these guys like playing the ref, like the great Bobby Knight. These people should be put in jail the way they talk about our judges and our justices.
So a lot of us in the pro-democracy movement have criticized the Supreme Court, and according to Donald Trump, people like us should be in jail. So who's turning up the temperature? And what I would say to any of my friends that I used to hang around, I don't really anymore, that says Brando's talking politics these days, would you be cool with me being jailed because I've said things against the Supreme Court? Do you think that's fair? Because you guys are the very ones that have warned me about a dictator for so many years. Oh, you can't have health care. That'll lead to communism. We'll have a dictator. Oh, we can't have education in this country. No, that'll lead to communism. But here's a guy saying, I'm going to lock up anybody that disagrees with the Supreme Court. And I really, truly believe that people wouldn't bat an eye if people like us started going to jail over what we've said. The people that claim to be my friends, I think would just go back to work that day and go, well, I guess he should have stayed quiet about that. So that's why that I walk past you and don't say anything anymore if you don't know the truth about it. But anyway, moving on with all of the crazy, ridiculous stuff that Donald Trump has said. In this next clip, he talks about Kamala and working at McDonald's. And it's just so over the top ridiculous, but we got to take a look at it.
She's been talking about her experience at McDonald's. I worked at McDonald's over the French fries. It was so hot. I think I'm going to go to a McDonald's next week someplace. I'm going to go. Might not be in your place. I'm going to go to a McDonald's, and I'm going to work the French fry job for about a half an hour. I want to see how it is. But she said she worked and she grew up in terrible conditions. She worked at McDonald's. It was such. She never worked there. And these fake news reporters will never report it. They don't want to report it because they're fake. They're fake.
If you'll notice, Donald Trump always calls the media fake whenever stories they put out gets fact checked. MAGA is who put out this story that claimed that McDonald's said that Kamala never worked there. But I'm going to bring you up, and I'm sure the trolls and Trump would say that this is fake news. But let's go to this story here from USA Today. The claim is McDonald's said there was no record of Kamala Harris working there. So an August 31st Facebook post shows a headshot of Vice President Kamala Harris next to a McDonald's sign. McDonald's corporate has came forth and said they have no record whatsoever of Kamala Harris ever working at any of their locations, reads the text, which is a screenshot of a post on Truth Social. Truth, when even McDonald's wants nothing to do with you, it's time to throw in the towel. That's what the post said. Students for Trump chairman Ryan Forner, I guess they say that, also made this claim on X, saying on August 29th, McDonald's corporate sources have came forth and said they have no record of Kamala Harris working at any of their locations. This Facebook post has been shared more than 20,000 times in 9 days. Our rating false. McDonald's has not made any statement about whether Harris worked at the restaurant. So McDonald's has not made this claim. But that's not going to get in the way of MAGA sharing it, and that's not going to get in the way of Trump yelling fake news. But I would absolutely love to see Donald Trump go to a McDonald's. I don't think he would make it 30 minutes. He would do a stage op. He would he would stage it. You would see him throwing some fries around, and then he would act like that, boy, he done something in his life. But that guy has never worked an honest day in his life, never walked down a dirt road, never struggled, doesn't have calluses on his hands, has never actually had any real sweat on his brow from the job that he's doing. The only time Donald Trump has ever been sweating is when he's been trying to dodge accountability. It's an insult to anyone who's ever worked a day job. And the way he talks about, oh, it's so hot, I'm working over these fries, he doesn't have a clue what that's like, and he would not last 30 minutes. In anyone's world out there who supports Trump, and I've worked alongside hardworking people who were good people, nothing wrong until you start talking politics, and then you realize just how misinformed and uninformed that they were. But I've worked alongside people that would roll up their sleeves and truly go to work, and I promise you, Donald Trump wouldn't last 10 minutes in your world, let alone 30. He would not survive in your world. and yet you think he's the guy that's going to fix all of your problems. I've had a lot of people say, well, Brandon, one of the biggest problems we face is the education in this country. That's what's led us to this point. And right here is Donald Trump saying that if he's elected, he would do away with the Department of Education. But watch how he sets this statement up. It's complete lunacy. Take a look.
More money per pupil than any other country by far, and yet we're at the bottom of the list. Out of 40, we're ranked about number 40. And I'm going to close the Department of Education and move education back to the states. And we're going to do it fast. Maybe I'll have you do that. I'll use Lee. Maybe I'll have you. You could do it. That's not too easy. We'll get somebody great. We'll get Lee Zeldin is here with us tonight. I think that's the job for Lee.
So there's their favorite new catchphrase, back to the states. But he actually said with a straight face that we're at the bottom of the list, we're at the bottom of the barrel, and I'm going to do away with the Department of Education. Anyone out there who works within the education system should really see that as a red flag. That's a massive red flag, but that is also a massive part of Project 2025. That's what they have said that they want to see happen. So the more that Trump tries to distance himself from Project 2025, the more he goes out there and echoes it. And he may not say, oh, I'm borrowing right here from Project 2025, but he clearly is. And if you actually read it, if people would actually stop and take time to read it, they would realize, you know what? He is echoing exactly what it is that it's saying. But this next thing he's echoing is so over the top ridiculous that I had to share it with you. Here he is saying how that he loves women and he wants to be their protector. And I almost threw up in my mouth just saying that, but take a look.
Make this statement to the great women of our country. Sadly, women are poorer than they were 4 years ago, much poorer, are less healthy than they were 4 years ago, are less safe on the streets than they were 4 years ago, are paying much higher prices for groceries and everything else than they were 4 years ago, are more stressed and depressed and unhappy than they were 4 years ago, and are less optimistic and confident in the future than they were 4 years ago. I believe that. I will fix all of that and fast, and at long last, this nation and national nightmare will end. It will end. We've got to end this national nightmare. Because I am your protector. I want to be your protector. As president, I have to be your protector. I hope you don't make too much of it. I hope the fake news doesn't go, oh, he wants to be their protector. Well, I am. As president, I have to be your protector.
There's one thing I will give him, that women are more stressed these days. They definitely are more stressed, and they're more stressed because of Donald Trump overturning Roe versus Wade. We've did stories here on the channel about Kate Cox, who had to leave Texas to get the help that she needed. We've did stories about Amber Thurman, the 28-year-old mother who died because she couldn't get the care that she needed because the doctors were afraid to give her that care for fear of being arrested themselves. We have did stories about the JAMA Medical Institute that did the study that 64,000 women have been impregnated by rape since Roe versus Wade was overturned, and how that in many cases they lived in states where there was no exception for rape. So I would imagine the only part of that he ever came close to getting right was that they're more stressed than they ever were. And as far as being less healthy, well, they can't get access to the health care that they need. And that's all because of you, pal. So it's not the flex that he thinks it is. And to sit back and say, well, they just want strong borders. In other words, they want what I want. That's what he's basically sitting there saying. They want what I want. This next clip is another one that is over the top ridiculous, but I want you to pay attention to the crowd at the end. Listen to what they start chanting at the end of this clip. Take a look.
Nonprofits to inundate Pennsylvania communities, changing the character of small towns and villages all over our country and changing them forever. They will never be the same. They will never be. Do you think Springfield will ever be the same? I don't think. The fact is, and I'll say it now, you have to get them the hell out. You have to get them out. I'm sorry. To get them out. Can't have it. Can't have it. They've destroyed it.
So yeah, they're setting there chanting, send them back. Folks, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not. This is straight up white supremacy because you never hear Donald Trump ever talk about immigrants coming from white countries. When have you ever heard him talk about people coming from Germany, coming from France, coming from anywhere else? It's always people of color who he has a problem with. And that's, again, when he said they've changed us forever, that's another one of his poisoning the blood kind of references that he's using. Those are absolute straight up dog whistles to the groups like the Proud Boys and the different ones out there. They hear that and they realize that a guy like him is on their side. But now, just the average person out there, especially people living right around here in Appalachia, they've never been to the border, and what's going on at the border does not affect them, but they've been duped into thinking. And I want you to take a look at this next clip. There's a Trump supporter who's asked, what has the border done to you? Check out his answer.
What's the most important issue for you as a Pennsylvania voter?
The illegal immigration into this country.
How is it hurting you and folks you know?
It's not. It's just the principle of the fact that everybody comes in here and gets free stuff and taking stuff away from hardworking Americans, and we got to put America first again.
So yeah, it's the single most important issue to him, but it's not really affecting him. It's just the principle of it. He don't want to see people get free stuff. I hear that stuff so much in my part of the world. They're so scared to death that somebody might get a Snicker bar on an EBT card. They do not care at all that the money goes to the top. They don't care about that. You'll never hear people in my part of the world bitch about corporate welfare. They don't care because they're duped into believing that if we tax the rich, that they won't be able to have a job because the rich won't be able to survive. And when people says things like, well, you know what, if they raise minimum wage, I've got a job that's not a minimum wage job. If they raise minimum wage, it's going to hurt me. No, you're going to be just fine. What you're saying is that you don't want to see anyone else have a fair shake in this world. You don't ever want to see anyone else step up the ladder. What people don't understand is that if working people have money, they spend it. It just goes right back into the system. So this idea that, we can't give poor people a handout. It's not giving them a handout. It's giving them a hand to play. And when you give them a hand to play, it comes right back to you. But people here in East Tennessee, Southeast Kentucky, the border's my biggest problem. The border's my biggest problem. It's not affecting you in the least. But you know what's funny? Down in Texas and Arizona, where they're there, down in those states where they would be more affected by it, those states aren't complaining the way people up here in Tennessee are. There's a good chance now it's getting closer and closer in Texas. That's actually becoming a much tighter race than people expected. Arizona's a swing state, could go either way. If you ask the people that lives on the border on a daily basis what they're going through, they don't complain near as much as some dude in some holler in Southeast Kentucky. And it all goes back to race. And I hate to be the guy to play that card, but that's clearly what it is because they can't stand the thought of somebody of a different color getting ahead in this world. And they think they've been duped into believing that those people are what's holding them back. No, what's holding you back is the fact that you live in these red states that have been ran by Republicans for years and who have duped you and brainwashed you into thinking that everyone else is your problem while they sat back and absolutely took you and your family to the bank and took away everything that was ever promised to you when you were growing up. Everything we were ever promised got yanked right out from under us by Republican politicians who found a way to blame it on the Democrat, and they did it by sitting and saying the Democrat was for that person of color that you don't understand and that you're afraid of. And they taught you to be afraid of it. The politicians taught you to be afraid of it. Your racist ass uncle taught you to be afraid of it. Your preachers at church taught you to be afraid of it. And that's why you're more concerned about it. But at the end of the day, just like that guy said, no, it don't really affect me, but that's my biggest issue. I've never seen a time like this one. It's unlike any time that I've ever seen. This is unlike any election that I've ever seen. People always says, my entire life, I've always heard it said, this is the most important election of our lifetime. And they say it to the point that I get sick of repeating it. But folks, this one is definitely the most off-the-wall election that I've ever seen because we're seeing a politician go out there and tell you exactly what he is, opens up his playbook, reads directly from it, And when we point out that he's reading from the playbook, they say we're the bad guys, we're the fake news people, we're the threat to democracy, because we're pointing out what a threat he is, not only to democracy, but to the future of the country and to the future of anyone who's trying to better their life. It's one of the craziest things I've ever sat back and witnessed. But that last clip pretty much sums it all up. It's not actually affecting them, but he duped them into thinking that it is. And that's where we're at. And that guy's vote that said, well, it's the most important thing to me, even though it don't affect me, his vote counts the same as yours. And that's what we got to keep at the front of our minds going into this election. When you roll your eyes at a Facebook comment, when you see your cousin or your uncle or one of your best friends say something that you go, oh, I can't believe they actually typed that. I can't believe they attached their name to such a stupid comment. Their vote counts too. It counts the same as yours does. That's why we can't rest on our laurels. That's why we got to keep moving forward. And that's why we got to keep calling this stuff out. And that's what I intend to do. As long as I'm sitting here in this chair, as long as I have a platform to do it from, I'm going to be pointing these things out because it's too important not to. Like I've said so many times, the world does not need to hear me sing an Eagles cover ever again. You guys will be okay, all right? If you want to hear Waylon Jennings, I recommend the Honky Tonk Heroes album. I really enjoy that one. I also love the This Time album. I think that one's criminally underrated. Give it a listen. You don't have to hear me do it, okay? But if you ever do want to hear me do it, I am going to be starting to do some Brando Jukebox favorite shows over on Patreon. So if you haven't already, be sure to check it out in the description of this video. And I will go over there and play some songs from time to time to get away from all this madness. But as far as the hill I'm willing to die on, I would much rather sit here on this hill as to sit on a bar stool and play to people who are talking so loud I can't hear myself think. So, yeah, I'm happy where I'm at, and I appreciate you guys for coming along on this ride with me. Thank you for hitting that subscribe button. If you haven't already, be sure to, and we'll just keep calling it out because at this point in the game, we have to.